What line is he on? I got him now. Right. John, good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
John, when was the can you just remind me, when was the last time we spoke?
I'd say about nearly 2 years ago.
Was it that long?
It probably was. I'd say a year and a half to 2 years ago. I've had my life is in bits since.
It sounds it. You sound upset and you sound down, and I have all of the reasons here on the screen, but I'd prefer to hear it from you. Could I just recap as to why we spoke 2 years ago? It had to do, I believe, with extramarital activity, and you were saying that it was a good thing in a relationship for these things to happen. Do you still go along with that?
That's correct. Well, at the time, I was responding to a gentleman caller, promoting extramarital activities, as you rightly called it. But at the time, I had a very successful business in Cork. And I had a girl in Dublin, French student, and I bought her a little Civic, if you remember me telling you. And
you bought her a Honda Civic?
A Honda Civic, yeah. And my wife, at the time, Helen, was away on holidays in Portugal. And when I was on radio...
do you not need to be very careful here without kind of identifying your wife?
Well, things have changed dramatically since...
Oh, okay. Sorry, go on.
I was with Nadia in Dublin, and I had a little operation in the reproductive organs, and the old snip, and it was ineffective. And Nadia fell pregnant, and that was really the start of it, because she broke the news to me on a Monday afternoon, and by Tuesday she was after running off home to Mammy, took the Civic. And I was shocked and stunned for a number of reasons, for the fact that she disappeared, and also for the fact that the car was gone, and the fact, of course, that she was indeed pregnant, and claimed that I was the father. But that was... I came home on a Friday.
You mean claimed? That's kind of a hurtful thing to say, isn't it? Obviously, I would have thought that you would have been the father, wouldn't you?
I'm almost certain I was, you know. There's really no doubt about that. But I arrived home the weekend, because I had a count done, and I have proof that the operation was ineffective.
Ineffective?
Ineffective, yeah.
Have you heard of that happening before, where the snip, as you put it, isn't a snip?
In very, very minimal cases, it can reverse, you know.
And let me just get things straight here. Were you commuting up and down to Dublin with the wife and family in Cork, and an apartment in Dublin?
I had an apartment in Dublin, and I was operating in Dublin about 4 days a week with the family business. We inherited the business from Helen's father, and I built it up, of course. But a lot of my work was in Dublin. I was and home at the weekends. But once Nadia broke the news to me on the Monday, I arrived home on the Friday evening to find Helen in the front room with another man.
Oh, my God.
And I immediately suspected, I was shattered to think that she would cheat on me, but as it turned out...
Wait a minute. Let's get things in perspective. How long had you been commuting up and down to Dublin to Nadia?
Well, I know that there seems to be a duplicity there, and maybe a paradox, but...
Three words come to mind. Kettle, pot, and black, I think.
Well, I mean, look, I'm mostly distraught at the moment.
All right. So who was your man, John? Who was in the house?
It turned out, in actual fact, that Helen was quite faithful indeed, that the other man was a man called Roberto, who turned out to be Nadia's father. And he was hot-foot over as soon as Nadia, I'd say, touched down in Paris. He was over on a flight, and anyways... to spare you sort of intervening details, there was a little fracas in the front room. He went straight for my throat. I needed hospital treatment, a few stitches in that. But he had threatened to kill me, and is sustaining those threats so much so. My wife packed a suitcase, changed the locks on the front door, and I feared for my life. I had to leave the country. I was in England for the best part of 12 months.
And this is how long ago? 12 months ago? More?
No, this is about 15 months ago.
All right, about a year after we last spoke.
Yep. Yeah. So in the whole height, there's 6 months of my life missing. It transpires that I signed some documentation during that time. In relation to the family business, my son has it now, John Jr., and he won't talk to me. I've lost all sort of legal rights to the business I had. I've been living in the fires of emotional solitude for that period of time, virtually penniless. Nadia is gone. I was then subsequently dragged through the courts of France. It was cost me in the region of £200,000 before I was finished, including a settlement with no visiting rights at all.
Baby boy, baby girl?
Baby boy. Jacques.
Living with mother in
Paris with her family. I daren't try and go near the home. I couldn't afford to now at this point in time. As I say, I'm virtually penniless.
And where did you stay in London for that 12 months?
Well, I was in London, up in around the Hyde Park direction, staying in sharing an apartment, a bedsit rooftop with a friend of mine who was working in the construction industry in England. But for that time, I spent most of the time in the bedsit, in bed, in actual fact, very, very depressed on very strong medication.
I was going to ask you that,
Yeah, so I was on strong medication.
So far, from what you're saying so far, I can't imagine that there is a single woman and an awful lot of men out there who would wish it any other way.
How do you mean?
Well, what I mean is you got your comeuppance, what happened to you was coming to you, and that's the way it should have transpired.
Well, I suppose maybe but surely there's room for a little human compassion, and that's the reason, really, that I rang you this morning, because I tried to write to Helen. She won't acknowledge my letters. She won't take my phone calls. I'm desperate for money, and I implore Helen. That's why I'm ringing on the air, because I know she listens to your program, and
I know
I'm
you're
just
upset.
saying, please, Helen.
Upset.
Sorry, no, I'm just very emotional.
You're upset. No.
I'd just like to ask Helen, really, would she please, Helen, take me back? I know on your program I was somewhat demeaning to women, Neil, but
do you mind me just bringing that up, because they've just put it up on the screen here that you made references to Cork women as Malteser sucking biddies.
No, the term I used was Malteser swallowing old biddies. Now,
meaning what, John?
I profusely apologise. Well, I had the view at the time that women lay around all day swallowing Maltesers and watching Raphael and all that old jazz on the telly, and Dr. Ruth and the whole bloody lot of it.
Do you not believe that anymore?
I've come to the point where I think I was probably mistaken in making that statement, and I apologise profusely to the ladies of Cork, and I would implore the ladies of Cork, please, to have some bit of human compassion and rally round, give me some bit of support to get Helen back.
But why? Yeah, sorry, go on.
So to err is human, and to forgive divine, and I'm a broken man, penniless, and really, really desperate.
But how could, I mean, look, I'm not judge and jury in any regard in this, but how could she ever trust you again? I mean, did she hear, for instance, your carry-on 2 years ago when you were on the air? Did she recognise you at that stage?
No. Actually, some of your listeners had predicted that she would find out almost immediately, but as a wise old man told me, they're always the last to find out, you know, so I don't know who knew or who identified me at the time, but Helen knew nothing until Nadia's father, Roberto, arrived.
I don't recall anybody recognising you at all, but in the end of the day, ironically, it was your own girlfriend that was the cause of your demise.
Well, it was the wrath of her father, I think. Well, I think Nadia just panicked a little and
how old
went home.
Was she at the time?
Nadia was 23.
And you, do you mind me asking?
I'm early 40s.
Yeah.
And, but Nadia, I think, just
you
got
played
scared.
With fire, though, weren't you? I mean, you played, and you lost.
Well, it's the roulette table of life, I suppose, you know. You win some and...
Yeah, maybe your wife and family are happier without you.
I hope not. I mean, it was all very cozy at the time. She was happy here at home. We had everything materialistically, and I had love and affection, and in Dublin, and Nadia was happy. Everybody was happy, and I thought that it would go on forever. But sadly, Nadia panicked a little. Her father went berserk, and
panicked. She's a single young girl in Dublin, out of her own native country, and she's expecting a child by a married man.
Yeah, well, I
think she did the most realistic thing in the world.
But
she told her family.
Well, that was like throwing petrol on the fire then, because Roberto, as I say...
So you would have been fine. You would have been fine as long as you weren't caught.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't look at it like that. I prefer to say everybody was happy, and life is all about happiness. And
what do you mean everybody was happy? How could your wife and family have been happy?
They were happy because they were blissfully ignorant of what was going on, you know. And they were happy here, materialistically. She had her golf and her tennis and her own car, member of the health club and all the rest of it. She wanted for nothing and was quite happy, blissfully unaware that I was achieving love and affection elsewhere also. Also, yeah. And it took a bad twist, and as a result, my wife is still financially secure, Helen is, and she still has all the trappings of life.
And you have what? Nothing?
I have absolutely nothing.
Are you working?
No, in fact, I'm at a stage where I'm going to have. I'm all of my contacts have closed off in business sense. I have absolutely nothing. I'm toying around even. This morning, I was wondering if I would go to maybe out to Dunn stores who are opening in Blackpool, soaring there, and the big shopping centre. That maybe I would take any sort of gainful employment at all.
Well, God knows there is plenty of work out there. If you were, keen enough to do it, you could find the work. You know, I don't think that anybody can't work these days unless they're ill or not in a physical position to do so. I'm a broken man, a shadow of my former self, Neil. I'm still on medication, so the work and responsibility. Well, you're a quieter man than you were 2 years ago, and you were spouting off at the mouth about how brilliant you were and how the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing, and that's the domain of men, and that's the way it should be.
You're not in a position to judge me, so... I'm
not saying I'm not. Can you just hold on a second there? 1-857-15996. It's not up to me to help the guy, I don't believe, really, at the end of the day.
Good morning.
How you doing, all right?
Well, I was until I heard him on the radio.
Are you still there, John?
Yeah, I'm here.
Why, you make a point that we should help you. There's nothing that we can do to help you.
Well, what I was hoping
I gave you the avenue of the radio to say what you had to say, you know?
But all I wanted to do was to try and appeal to Helen, really, to take me back. I implore Helen to take me back and ask, please, for some bit of sympathy.
Excuse me, John.
Yeah?
Yeah, why should she take you back?
Because she's my wife.
You done the dirt on her and you want her to take you back.
Well, I mean, you're calling it doing the dirt.
Yes, it is. What would you call it?
There was nothing dirty about it. I mean...
Yes, there was. You went out and you had an affair in one part of the town.
Are you comfortable actually talking to people on the air about it, John?
Neil, I'm in the emotional wreck, and anything that will get me back on my feet, I'm certainly willing to. I'm just hoping Helen is listening, and certainly I'm willing to try and make a case for some human compassion.
Well, you've made your case as to whether women... Do you think women would be contrite in this issue, Patricia, that they would be forgiving?
No. Not in the slightest. Why should they? It's like every other man, isn't it?
To err is human, to forgive divine.
So. It may be so, but unfortunately, you see what happened to him? He got caught. And he would have carried on doing what he was doing, kept his business, kept his family, and kept his lover on another side. Well, fate stepped in, didn't it? For his wife, fate stepped in. And put him in his place.
Everybody makes mistakes. You know,
listen, there's mistakes and there's mistakes.
Yes,
what about your children?
All my children are reared, and I mean...
It doesn't matter, they're still your children, they'll always be your children.
Well, and they were always my children, and I gave them everything, love, affection.
Listen, material things don't count.
I gave them love, I mean, that's not material.
You did, you did, and you were giving it to somebody else at the same time.
But, I mean, I have a lot of love, or I had a lot of love to go around.
Oh, come on, give me a break.
Go away, for God's sake.
A lot of love to go around, you sound like a pop singer.
No, but I mean, I was a man who had a strong drive.
Yeah, you proved you were a man, but not a real one.
Patricia, it says here that you were in a similar situation, is that right?
That's correct.
And had you a chance to forgive?
No, and neither would I.